These machines make Kyle $40,000 a month, and he started just 19 months ago.
This is the world's simplest side hustle. I don't have a website, I don't have social media, I don't even have business cards, and we're still closing in on almost $500,000 a year.
Wow. So what did it cost you to start?
Our total out-of-pocket was $294.46.
How many hours a week do you put into this?
I only work 15 hours a week. Your viewers can literally use my playbook to build their own successful vending business.
I'm here to find out how he built a $40,000 a month side hustle and what that playbook looks like for somebody starting today. Anna, Kyle, it's good to meet you guys. I'm excited to help our audience understand how you got your vending business off the ground. Where did it all start?
I think with a dream, just wanting to grow and have some financial freedom and make, at first, just a little bit of extra money.
And why vending out of all the options that you could have went with?
You know, I think every time I tell somebody that we do vending, they always say, you know, I've always thought about doing that. And so did we, and we went and did it.
That's awesome. So this is your full-time gig now?
Well, we have both businesses. This is a carpet cleaning business, actually. And so between the two, we're full-time, yeah.
And so this, I'm guessing, is just a very small piece of the puzzle where we're standing as. Tell us what your scale of operation is today.
We've got close to 30 machines total. I think we're at 28 right now. Only 3 of them are here where we actually live. The others are in Portland. There's a big metropolitan area. We quickly discovered that there's a great market up there. And so while we originally intended to build the business here in our hometown, we wound up driving up there and building a business up there as well.
So why start the day here?
Yeah, we have kind of a unique business because we really operate in kind of 2 different sectors. Here where we live, we only have 3 machines and it's a small operation. And this is where most people start. Just literally, we're standing in our garage right now.
Yep.
We have not a lot of inventory because we don't need very much. We stock once a week, maybe for an hour or 2. So this is where a lot of people start their vending business truly as a side hustle. But in Portland, it's grown to a legitimate business with the warehouse and employees.
Can you walk me through any specific important details as far as what we're seeing here at the garage? Any tools, anything that a rookie, somebody starting out would need to buy to get started?
I mean, shelving, just somewhere to store it. And it's pretty simplistic, some bins. You do what's called kitting. So we have all this stuff here and you know what's in your machine and what you need to restock and put it in there and then load it in your car and go stock it up. It's pretty easy.
I never heard the word kitting. What is that?
So you have like this piece of paper and it tells you how much is in the machine currently and then how much you need. So then we just grab a box like this and then we go through, load what we need and then put it in the cart.
All right, guys, what's on the list today? I'm here to help to get everything restocked.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and kit for a machine. So we're gonna check out what we need. We need some Gatorades. We're gonna take some Butterfingers.
Do you do this daily, Kyle, Anna, as far as just making sure that the vending machine is completely full every day, or is there a break in between?
It's like 7 to 12 days typically between restocks, which works out to 3 to 4 times a month, basically.
Yeah.
And where are we going? What's the first location?
We're headed to the laundromat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's go check it out. So 1 of 3 in Salem.
Yep.
Do you guys expand, or do you want to expand more in Salem? Why or why not?
Well, there's one location that we'd like to expand to, but we kind of like keeping Salem a relatively smaller and easier operation.
Why?
If we grew Salem to the same volume that we had Portland,
Yeah.
then we would need the same setup. We'd need a warehouse, we'd need employees. And we kind of like having it be just kind of a small garage-based side hustle here in town and then having the bigger business up there.
So I know, Anna, you're the ones that restocks the Salem locations. Walk us through what's going on with this machine, what the process looks like, kind of what you focus on.
We just open our machine, we got our key, and we're gonna restock, move a few items around, stock some things that are selling better. So a top seller here is Takis, right? So we're gonna actually change all these to Takis because they sell out really quickly. And then some things that don't sell as well, we'll pull and
change the pricing and
change the pricing. Lock it up, take your cash, and
off we
that's
go.
it.
Off we go to the next one. So what does this machine bring in, you guys? I know that with Mike, we talked about 1,000 out of the sweet spot. What are you achieving on this one?
Yeah, this one's about 1,000.
And in a Salem location with 3 across, what's your revenue?
Say probably around 22 a month. Yeah.
22, okay.
Yeah.
How did you decide on this machine for this location? Why and why not?
The big reason was because we suspected, rightfully so, that this would be a cash-heavy machine, and the AI machines are cashless. But this one, between 70 and 75% is cash. It's always a gamble. You never know what revenue is going to look like at any location, but we didn't expect this one to be doing $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. And so we went with the traditional machine because the overhead on them and kind of the SaaS fees are lower. And so for this, all we pay is $20 a month for the credit card reader. And that's really the only overhead on it.
How do you know what's running low? How often do you get that notification?
Yeah, so actually the credit card reader in here, it actually keeps count of how many times the coils turn. So it actually lets you know that way.
We log into the website.
Yep.
Tells us exactly what's in the machine and
What we
that's how we
need.
know how much to bring.
Okay. I mean, it's not really that different from the AI-powered software system.
No, the big difference in the fees is that the AI systems have like ongoing monthly fees to justify the AI, I guess. And so, and these don't. So the overhead is significantly lower on these machines.
What would the fees on this one be then? Because you do have a credit card reader on this, so there's a charge for that. Cash, obviously, there's no charge, right? What's the credit card cost here?
If you use the credit card to make the purchase, there's a 5.5% transaction fee.
Most merchants are like 2.6 plus a 30-cent fee here and there.
Yeah, I think the reason is because the transactions are very small in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing $1.50 or $2.
You're doing 40 grand a month as of right now, 30 locations, right? Just to recap, 3 in Salem, 27-ish in Portland. How much goes to expenses? How much goes to profit?
Yeah, the vast majority of it is expenses. But in general, we're operating somewhere between 15 and 20% profitability. Financing payments right now are roughly 10 to 15% of our total budget. And so once we have those machines paid off, then obviously the profitability is going to jump up even higher.
I know we keep hearing 50+% profit margins, but then I also hear 15 to 20% profitability. Can you clarify that for our audience?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we talk about margins on specific items, that's where you want to see at least a 50% margin. The profit margins on the business as a whole are obviously going to be different than the margin like on an individual item.
Where are you at in terms of reinvesting back in the business? How much is your take home if you're able to share?
For us right now, we're allocating 80% of our budget towards operating expenses, which includes all of our expenses. So our salaries, our cost of goods, the financing payments, my warehouse lease, insurance. 80% of our budget is devoted there. And if we have overflow, then we'll use that to pay down debts. And then the remaining 20%, we divvy that up between like owners, our own pay, our savings basically, or what Profit First refers to as the profit bucket, and then taxes as well.
Okay, so at 30 locations across 2 different towns, you're already dealing with a distributor.
Yeah.
At which point did you jump to distributor versus running the Sam's and Costco?
When we got the warehouse, you have to have a commercial space for most distributors to deliver to. And so once we got our first warehouse, we became eligible, and then we started working through there. Costco, especially their drinks, are actually really competitive with the distributors. But the difference is Costco typically sells variety packs. And so like Celsius, for instance, they almost always come in 3 different flavors. One of which almost never sells. And so, you buy an 18 pack, but it's kind of like you're really only buying 12 units because the 6, whatever flavor, doesn't always move very well. With the distributor, you buy cases of exactly what you want. You don't deal with the variety packs.
Even though it's a little higher price or about the same as Costco then?
Sometimes it's a little higher price than Costco, especially when Costco has like their coupons where it's $6 off the case or whatever. Those prices are almost unbeatable.
Guys, when it comes to placing, and let's say you found this location, another laundromat, who decides where it goes? How important is it?
Yeah, I mean, location is everything. You want to get the machines in the highest foot traffic location. Very few people are going to go out of their way to find a vending machine, but if it's visible and you're already walking past it, you'll stop and check it out. And the owner of the building or the property definitely has a huge say in it. Yeah, so I can't just walk into somebody else's business and tell them what I'm going to do there, right? Most often in the apartment complexes where they have an idea where they want to put it in an amenities space, but I know that's not the best space for it. So we just have to navigate that together and come to a win-win.
When it comes to ownership, can you walk us through about this specific machine? Do you guys own it? How did you finance it? What is it costing you per month, et cetera?
This is one of their more expensive machines because it's one of the biggest ones. It was right around $8,000.
Okay.
And I think that's including freight, like delivery. I think the payment on it is $220 a month or something like that.
How long does it usually take to pay off a machine, Kyle?
Usually the loans are either 3 to 5 years. What a lot of vending machine business owners do is just reinvest every dollar they make. And oftentimes they can get their machines paid off in a year or less.
Who handles repairs, maintenance if things go wrong? And they do, right?
I do right now. And that's one of my next steps is to train my warehouse manager in Portland to be able to tackle some of that stuff as well. But right now I do all that.
Don't these guys provide some kind of a maintenance package when you buy from them, finance through them? I would imagine, it's kind of hands off, broken, hey, phone call, they're here.
Yeah, tech support is really helpful. Mostly what they do is walk you through the steps to fix it yourself.
I see.
But they're super helpful. The machines are warrantied. So if it's like a lemon or if there's a problem with the machine itself, which actually happened on this machine, they sent somebody out under warranty. I didn't have to pay for it. The tech fixed it, problem solved.
Anna, so this is what it looks like fully stocked.
Yep.
Doesn't take too long. What are the final steps that we need to do before we wrap it up, close it up, and head over to the next location?
Well, so you want to make sure that you have all your pricing correct in case you switched out items. And then we're going to check for cash.
Oh,
so
yeah,
here's our cash box. We're going to close it up, make sure it's locked.
That's how you do the one location, but we've still got, what, plenty more to go?
Oh, yeah.
Where are we going next with Kyle once he joins us?
We're going to be heading to Portland.
Portland,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Let's do it. Come with us. Wow, this is quite different than what I expected.
It's big.
I mean, I thought it was a warehouse, but this is like a warehouse. I mean, you guys, look at the mass scale of this. So you're renting just this space, starts at the red line right here, if you guys can see, and it goes there. How much square foot are you committing to here?
It's like 560, something like that, yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that anybody can start this business, doesn't have to have a warehouse, and keep it small scale. What do you say to that?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing in our hometown where we started this video. We only have 3 machines there. We operate it out of our garage. Here we are now, an hour away from where I live, where the majority of the business is, and we require this space. But it's absolutely doable out of your garage or your basement with just a few machines on a small scale. Machine is financed 0 down. You'll need a couple $100 in inventory. That's really all you need.
Can you show us up close kind of what you're keeping here? And then I believe we need to stock for the apartments that we're going to next.
Absolutely, yeah, let's go take a look.
Launching a business the right way used to be hard, but now there's a way to do it in the time it takes to grab a snack. That's a big deal because snacks are easy to change, but your business setup isn't. Therefore, you need to set your company up properly and legally right from the get-go. But if you're not quite sure how to do that, that's where Busy comes in. Busy lets you launch your business the simple way. Forming your LLC, filing everything with the state, and making sure you're official right from the start with just a few clicks. They even give you a professional business address with digital mail scanning so you can stay organized and legit from day one. And unlike a lot of companies in this space, Busy's pricing is fully transparent. There are no subscriptions quietly renewing year after year. You get clear upfront pricing and you only pay for what you need when you need it. That's why serious entrepreneurs choose Busy, because doing it any other way is nuts. Click the link below to get started the right way with Busy.
When you were starting out, did you ever find yourself not having enough resources to even restock a machine or two, or?
You know, it was a while before we actually paid ourselves. So for the first good while, we're just letting that money build in the business account. And so we never had that particular issue, but if I was a little bit zesty and started taking money out of the account right away, I think we would have had some problems.
So how much prep, Kyle, happens here or needs to happen here to make sure that the route is like super smooth and simple?
Yeah, all of the prep happens here. So my warehouse manager, he generates the pick list. He does all of this kitting, and then my drivers come. The kits are already made. They just load them in their car and go. So this is a really integral part of what we do.
What are you spending on this space right here?
Well, this space is just shy of $800. But like I said, this is our third space. Our first one was like $170 a month. Our last one was like $320, or it might have even been $270. So this is by far the most expensive, and we just moved in here. It's taken us a while to get here.
How much inventory on a given day, week do you hold usually, just to make sure you're covered across 27 locations here?
My goodness. You know, I try and hold at least 2 to 3 weeks worth of inventory at a time. That way, if there is a shortage or for whatever reason, we're not completely out.
Right.
I've probably got somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 in products sitting there.
Awesome. Where are we going next?
We're going to our first apartment complex.
Nice. Is it a luxury, or where does that rank in terms of
Yeah,
category?
this is a luxury apartment, one of the nicer ones in Portland. So we're very pleased to be there. This is actually one of our top performing locations. So we're pumped to show you guys that today.
Nice. Let's do it. Wow, this is beautiful, Kyle. I wouldn't have expected to start here. What makes this location so good?
Yeah, this location in particular, it's a big apartment complex. There's over 200 units. A lot of people live here, and the machine is in pristine real estate. The front door is right there. The elevators are right here. So everybody has to walk past this machine and past this space. So it gets a lot of foot traffic. This is one of our highest performing machines.
What are the spots that everyone's competing for as opposed to these quiet little locations that are just waiting to be grabbed?
Yeah, like libraries, bus stops, the big factories that are producing items.
Is the pitch any different to these high-level luxury apartments versus just mid-level apartments and then office buildings, or is it all about the same?
The apartment complexes often expect a revenue share. Not always, but it seems to me to be increasingly necessary to get in. And then really but from there, it's kind of the same. You're just providing an amenity for the people that are there, whether they're employees or whether they're residents.
Are you willing to share what amount of revenue are you sharing for this specific location?
Yeah, this location, we're at 5%.
5%.
Yeah.
Is that on the high side, average?
That's on the high side. That's typically the highest
that
we
you'll go?
Yeah.
Okay. So besides putting these machines in place, restocking them, doing the maintenance, that's it, right? What else is left in terms of the overall operation?
Hiring is always a critical component, having the right people in place. Actually managing the inventory as it grows and scales, that part becomes really challenging. Because when it's small, you can eyeball it and say, oh, we're looking pretty low on this and this and this. And I had an eye-opening experience where I came to the warehouse one day 6 months ago, and I looked at the shelves and I said, we're pretty full. And then I came back 5 days later and I came back and said, those shelves are empty. We need a better inventory management system.
Oh, wow. This machine is clearly different from what we saw at the laundromat. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is one of the smart AI machines. This is one of the biggest and probably best models on the market. The capacity is very large. We have tons of stuff in here, which is great.
Yeah, sandwiches, drinks, you got pad Thai noodle. Wow, okay.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of fun stuff in here. And on the consumer side, the way it works is the doors are locked until you come and scan your card or like Apple Pay, Samsung Pay. And then the doors unlock. You open it up, you grab whatever you want. I want my soda, a charcuterie board.
No need to press any buttons.
None protein. Nope. I can't forget my Red Bull for later. So you grab whatever you want.
Close it up.
And after the door is shut, the transaction ends, it locks back up. The camera system detects what was taken and charges accordingly. So what we see is a very large average transaction size because people are grabbing more than one thing.
In terms of cost, how much different are they versus the traditional route?
Yeah, you can get smart machines, AI machines that are not that much more expensive, maybe $1,000, $2,000 more expensive than a traditional machine. But it's the back-end fees that are different.
Where are we going next, my friend?
Yeah, next we're on to the next luxury apartment, the Sutton.
The AI vending machines Kyle is talking about are from Micromart, and you can lease one for as little as $230 a month. And we're not talking about just any vending machines. These are Micromart smart vending machines. Think of it like a mini convenience store. Customers simply tap to unlock, grab what they want, and walk away. The system automatically charges them, making it easier for customers to buy and easier for you to earn. It's also AI powered, which means you can see what's selling, what's running low, and what needs restocking, all from one simple dashboard. People are raving about these machines. In fact, Michael Hoffman, who we recently featured on our channel, is making $75,000 a month with it. You can check out his story in episode 228. We reached out to Micromart and secured a special deal for our viewers. Use the link in the description below to get the discount. Learn more about their models and pricing, and try their payback calculator to see how quickly your first unit could pay for itself.
Man, this feels way more upscale than the previous one.
It's beautiful.
Begs the question then, do you charge more for stacks just because it's a super premium location?
Absolutely not.
No.
Nope, same price.
Have you even tried to and got pushback, or look at these machines?
Yeah, everything is priced the same. We don't price the items differently, but we do sell items that cost more here, if that makes sense. And so
that does.
We've got the fancier sodas that go for $4 each. I don't think those would move at the laundromat. And so,
So when it comes to getting these machines into this location, what's the first move? Call, email, or just pop in like everything else?
You can call and email, but I've had limited success doing that. When you pop in and you're able to smile and shake hands, it's a lot more successful.
Nice. Who do you usually go for when it comes to making the pitch to the right person? You walk in, do you ask for somebody specifically, or you assume they're the person to talk to?
Yeah, the property manager is who you want to talk to. So when you walk in, you're not usually going to have direct contact with them right away. So I'll say, hey, I'm Kyle with Davey Vending. I'm hoping to connect with the property manager. Is that you? And if it's not, they're going to say no or they're going to say yes, but they'll point you in the right direction at the very least.
So once you've met with that property manager, shook hands, what does that conversation sound like, just briefly, generally?
Yeah, it's very brief and direct and to the point. They're very busy people, so you don't want to belabor it. You tell them who you are and the services that you offer, and you're going to gauge right away if they're interested or not.
Where does it usually lead to right after that short conversation? Maybe hesitations that are very common?
Yeah, some of the common objections are they think it's going to cost money, and they say, hey, we don't have it in the budget. That's easy because it doesn't cost them any money, so that's easy to overcome. Space is sometimes a difficult one. They say, I don't know if we have the space for it. And then the aesthetic is always a concern because they don't quite understand yet that the machines are actually quite beautiful and they fit in really well. Because in their mind, they picture these old clunky, junky machines that clearly wouldn't fit at a place as beautiful as this.
What else do you bring with you that helps the offering, the conversation, and the visual aspect of it?
Just my smile. Yeah, flyer and a smile, that's it.
Yeah, can we see the flyer?
Absolutely. To me, the flyer mostly is the 2 pictures in the middle.
Right.
Because what it does, when I tell people we do vending, they have this idea of
Right.
old machines, and then they see these ones, and they have a different understanding.
All right, this has been awesome. Last place to check out is the office building.
Let's do it.
Right? Can we go with you?
Let's go.
Cool. Tell us about why this location works. What is this place?
Yeah, this is an office building. They have a lot of employees here, and we're in the break room. So people come here to take their lunches, they eat. Yeah, this was actually a referral. We do business also with the same company, but just a different location. And so my connection there was able to make an introduction here, and here we are.
When it comes to residential and office buildings, can you share any differences between foot traffic, cost to get in?
Yeah, residentials typically have higher foot traffic than at least the office buildings that I'm in. And you're almost always dealing primarily with the property manager there. You very rarely talk to anybody else. With the office building like this, you're typically negotiating or talking with an HR manager and HR personnel
Gotcha,
in order
okay.
to get the machine in. But once it's here, you usually will have a local contact like the office manager or somebody on site to kind of be your day-to-day on-site type person.
So then does the pitch change with regards to office versus residential in any way?
Definitely. So in office buildings, they're typically not looking for a revenue share. They just want to provide this as a bonus and an amenity for their employees. And so part of the pitch is keeping their employees happy. Believe it or not, keeping employees on site during lunches, because oftentimes people will leave and a 30-minute lunch turns into a 45 or whatever. So employers typically want to keep their employees on site. And then it just becomes a bonus and kind of an amenity to keep employee retention and to draw in new people as well.
What does this location do then in terms of revenue?
This one's
monthly?
right around $1,000 a month. Which for this traditional machine, we talked about the overhead fees from the AI machines earlier. For a traditional machine, I'm good with the $1,000 a month.
All right, blitz time with Kyle. You ready, my friend?
Ready?
All right, is there a snack you would never stock?
No.
No. Okay, I thought you'd say yes. Maybe like a hot dog or something, but your machines can handle all of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right, what's the biggest rookie mistake you see beginners make?
Bad machines, old broken machines.
What sounds easy about vending but isn't?
Passive. It's not as passive as people think.
How long did it take you to land your first location?
3 or 4 months.
Okay. What type of machines would you recommend for someone just starting out? Shout out a couple manufacturers. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Stockwell, Micromart, those are good machines.
Good to start with. Okay. How can you tell early if a location is going to be profitable?
Foot traffic.
What did your wife think when you first decided to do this?
Skeptical but supportive.
Interested in starting your own vending machine business? Check out our free masterclass to see how the pros do it. Taught by Adam Hill, the vendingpreneur making $58,000 a month, working just 2 days a week. You guys will learn everything you need from start to finding the best location and being most profitable. So click the link in the description below or scan the QR code to dive in. What would you say is the biggest misconception when it comes to this specific business?
You know, it is passive in the sense that people might be buying stuff from the machine when you're sleeping or when you're not there, but it takes a lot of work to get to that point, to have the machine, to build the contracts, to stock the machines. And so in that sense, it's not as passive as I think it's sold as.
You guys are only putting in 15 hours a week. What are you actually doing? How's that time invested across the 30 locations?
Yeah, I mean, our team stocks and maintains most of the locations themselves. So really, we spend our time doing sales and trying to gather new accounts. And that's really what we spend most of our time doing.
So now, 18 months behind you in experience, what was your smartest business move so far?
Joining the Mike's community, definitely, because I wouldn't have even started without, that gave me the courage and the know-how to go out and do it. But aside from that, when I got to the point where I was too busy stocking the machines myself, and I could no longer go out and do sales and continue growing the business, that's when I decided to hire and get a warehouse and set that infrastructure in play. And then when I had guys out stocking the machines, instead of me doing that, I could spend that time knocking on doors and continuing to grow.
So hiring.
Hiring.
Smartest move. Can be pretty intimidating for somebody who's never hired somebody before.
It's just trial and error, and you know, nobody's gonna care about your business as much as you do, so don't expect that. Expect that people are gonna probably burn you at some point, and That's just the way it is. And if you go into it with that expectation, you always want to find good people, but don't be shocked and surprised if somebody quits abruptly or if something bad happens. And then be the boss that you always wanted. Be nice to people, be kind to people. But other than that, I don't think there's a ton to it.
At which point in time did you hire your first person?
Yeah, I think we're really within 6 months of having our first machine installed.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we posted on Craigslist at that time and got a ton of applicants and found one and went with it.
How big is your team today, including you and your wife?
It's about $3,000 a month.
Across the 3 employees, you're not counting yourself.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's not a big commitment to then operate 30 locations. $40,000 a month, no website, no business cards, no social media. The question that I have is, how do you come across credible to the people that you're approaching face to face and saying, hey, let's work together?
References is really the big one. So when I'm able to name drop clients that they're familiar with, because they're all sort of in network, but they're all aware of each other. So when I'm able to say, hey, we currently service these guys and these guys and these guys and these guys, they know they can just pick up the phone and call them and ask how the service is. And so that's really the main way that, from my perspective, that we've come off as credible and built our credibility, is just through doing a good job.
That's amazing. But what about when you get started, because you don't have any references? What's your take quickly? Gold nuggets on how to approach that.
Yeah, that was tougher back then, to be honest. Most people don't realize actually how much goes into a vending business. And so I kind of played on that a little bit and said, hey, it's not rocket science to put a machine here and to put some snacks in it. And so we're gonna do a great job for you. And if not, cancel the contract, we'll pull the machine out, right? And so I kind of played on that, even though it's not 100% quite true, but yeah.
What's your total marketing budget as of today?
0. I guess technically I spent some money on flyers, but yeah.
And so there's no point to track ROI or anything because you're not spending anything. So then that begs the question, what does this cost? What does it cost for you to get this location besides your time?
That's really it.
That's it?
Gas to drive around. I have flyers, so I pay, I don't know, 80 cents per sheet or something for the flyers, but really that's it.
Why not market? Don't you think that's gonna help the business and make the phone ring rather than you making it ring?
It might, but we're very selective about the locations that we do business with because we want them to be high revenue, high volume locations. And so I might be more successful if we had a marketing budget and we're running ads, but our growth has been slow and steady, and it's actually been pretty quick and steady. And so we're just keeping at it.
That's amazing. Guys, tell me what you think. To generate $40,000 a month, building a business to that level and beyond with the need to spend $0 on marketing. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what else does. Comment below, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you buy used or new machines, and would you recommend for somebody starting out to just stick with the old ones because they're cheaper?
Almost all my machines are brand new from the factory, and I do not recommend buying used machines. You can find them on Facebook Marketplace for $1,000, but they're liable to break all the time, and particularly the coolant. When the coolant fails, you're upside down on the whole machine. So I would highly recommend spending the extra money and getting a brand new machine.
Okay, what kind of incentives do you offer to property managers, if any? When does that make sense to even bring up in a conversation?
Yeah, increasingly with the apartment complexes, they're asking about revenue share and almost expecting a revenue share. And so we typically start with a relatively small percentage.
Give our audience an example of exact figures when it comes to revenue share.
We typically start at 2.5% of revenue.
Gross, off the top?
Gross revenue, yeah. And I know other people just talk about doing profit or net operating income. But for me, the reason you would write a profit share instead of a revenue share is so that you could write a smaller check. Because obviously profits is going to be lower than revenue. But for me, knowing how easily manipulatable profit is and net operating income, I just don't want to give anybody any reason to question my credibility and say, oh, did this guy put his gas and he put his lunch on the card and that made this less profitable and that's why the check, whatever. I say, hey, no fuss. This is straight gross revenue, and that's what we base our percentages off of.
Pop-up to then close deal, what's the time frame?
Varies wildly.
I bet.
My fastest close, I think, was 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
The longest was 7-8 months, and there's some leads that I'm currently chasing that have probably been chasing for longer than that.
What does it boil down to, Kyle?
So on the residential side, you have the property manager. They're the one that's on site. They typically have a regional manager who oversees several properties. There's sometimes even an asset manager involved. And then from there, there's the ownership group or a single person owning the building. And so you have contact with the property manager, but you almost never have contact with anybody else. So the PM has to sell the regional, has to sell the asset manager, and then they as a team, if they're all on board, bring it to the ownership of the building who has the final say. And then they communicate, the ownership will communicate that back down the chain. But the only person you have contact with is the property manager on site.
Right.
And so if they're not advocating for you, it's gonna be dead in the water. And sometimes there's different timelines. They might not even meet with ownership for a couple of weeks. It's not a priority for them because they're doing other things. So the timelines vary wildly.
Any permits, any licenses that you need to operate a vending machine business? And then what about insurance as well?
Yeah, if you're operating, like if you're selling fresh food, perishables like sandwiches, stuff like that in Multnomah County where Portland is, you do have to have a special license for that. Otherwise, it's just general business insurance.
Okay, how much is insurance? Can you share that?
So I think I'm doing like maybe $700-800 a year, something like that.
Where does insurance come in and what scenarios, situations?
Yeah, so this is a very common misconception. Your business insurance does not cover the machine itself. Business insurance only covers human beings and the property that the machine is at. So if somebody vandalizes your machine, they take a bat to it because they want whatever, your general liability insurance is not gonna help you with that. You have to have an additional policy which costs more money, and in my opinion did not make a lot of sense when I penciled it for my business.
Really? How do you then protect your vending machines if they get busted?
There is a specific policy called inland marine insurance that does cover the machine itself. But when I penciled it out, the premiums to me didn't make a lot of sense given the cost of the premium as well as the deductible.
So you just wing it?
I've had my fair share of vandalism.
Yikes.
And I just pay out of pocket for it, but I still think that I've come out ahead given the cost of the premiums.
Aside from machine snacks, what else would somebody need to get started in this business?
I think just courage to go and be able to talk to people and do the pop-ins. You don't have to be an expert salesman. It's very easy sales, but if you have the courage to put the time in and to put the effort in, to be a little uncomfortable going and knocking on doors and saying, this is what we do, this is who we are you interested? That's really all it takes to get started, and the rest of it you figure out as you along the way.
What do you say to somebody who has a 9-to-5 commitment, but they love and always thought about getting in vending, and this is the time, right? How do you manage that 9-to-5 and the time to do pop-ins?
If you can carve out just a couple of hours a week to do the pop-ins, to go knock on doors and talk to people.
Weekends work?
Weekends would work, yeah, as long as there's decision makers working at that time. Weekends are great times to restock, but even if you can carve out a couple of hours during the week, maybe take a little bit of PTO or stack your lunches, take a long lunch just to go knock on doors, you can build a successful business.
Tell us about a story where you placed a machine and it ended up flopping.
It was actually here at this location, and I'll tell you why.
What do you mean?
Yeah, well, on paper, this is an amazing complex. It's huge, it's luxury, there's tons of units. But when I first got here, they wanted me to put it on some upper floor in a nook where almost nobody went through. And so it was only doing a couple $100s a month in sales at that point. And so finally I was able to talk with them, and they were agreeable to move it down to the main lobby where we are now, where everybody's coming and going. We saw a 400 to 500% increase in revenue literally overnight. So it went from my worst performing location at the time to my best performing location almost overnight.
Specifically for a beginner, you guys, what are the pros and cons for all the options on vending machines out there, right? Because you can get lost in that forest pretty easily.
Yeah, so the newer AI-driven vending machines, some of the pros for those are they're beautiful, they look really good. So if you have a location like a luxury apartment complex that is very aesthetically driven, those are a requirement to get in. The tech is really cool because once you scan the card, the doors open, or the doors unlock rather, and you open the door. And once that door is open, you're like standing in a fish. So it's very easy to grab more than one thing at a time. You can also put different things in there that you can't in a normal machine, like cheesecakes or like meals or glass bottles, which you wouldn't want in a normal machine because the drinks fall. But on the back end, the ongoing SaaS fees are a little bit higher as well. So you have to have a higher revenue potential in order for those machines to make more sense.
Got it.
And then the traditional coil-based machines, they're typically less expensive. There really aren't any SaaS fees, so there's less overhead on them. But then you're limited by just selections on what you can put in them.
So what would be then the most realistic path for somebody to go from 0 to 10K in this business as quickly as possible?
You know, if you're in a metropolitan area that has tower-style apartment complexes, if you can get 5 apartment complexes that are solid doing $2,000 a month each, which is very realistic and very doable, then you have 5 machines and you're doing 10K in revenue per month.
According to our polls, more than 50% of people don't pursue starting a business of their own because of fear. What do you tell them?
You won't succeed if you don't take risks. There's certainly risks for failure when you do, you might fail when you do take risks as well. So I won't negate that. However, I will say with the vending machine business, because you secure your contracts before you actually order any machines, you have very little to lose. Because if you go and you try and secure contracts and you don't, you aren't out any money. Right?
Yeah.
And so this is a great business to get started with.
Can you share with us a mindset, a philosophy that you personally hold to that kind of contributes to your success on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's just never giving up, never quitting. And I do think there is something to be said for cutting your losses and pivoting if you're going down a path that's not successful or not wise. Certainly don't do that. But if it's something that you want and you think it's going to be good, then don't stop, don't quit. There's always going to be hurdles and obstacles, but if you keep pushing, you'll find a way to overcome.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check out episode 154, where Adam Hill shares all his insight on how he built a $700,000 vending machine business working just 2 days a week. Take a second, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.